All right. Hey, you guys, welcome back to Gray Roots Podcast. This is Kari here, and I have been looking forward to talking about this topic because it's been something that has just been a passion of mine. And with five kids, I really wanted to instill community and finding your tribe with my kids. Even though there was five of them, they didn't have to go outside these four walls to find friends. Just really wanted to make sure that they understood that too, because I received that and have always received community and have my tribe, and just want to talk about that today. So, hey, Alicia, hey, Kathy,
Hello,
you guys
hello.
are a part of that.
Hey, hey.
So I'm so glad we're doing this together. First of all, I want to start with a couple of statistics. We're going to get a little bit brainy here. So this is from the American Psychiatric Association, and it's actually from the Surgeon General talking about in 2023, they called loneliness a public health epidemic. When you guys hear that, what do you think about? Or how does that make you feel, Kath?
It doesn't surprise me because I do think it's one of those issues that, again, is private, is silent, and it's when you get that you turn on your phone and you have a news flash that some famous person has taken their life by suicide, and you're
Mm,
like, wait, what? They were so funny, they were so successful, they were, whatever we
Yeah.
assumed they were. But when you hear their story, they were so lonely, they were so
mhm,
sad, they were so withdrawn.
hmm
mhm.
So it does not surprise me that it's considered a health situation and a crisis.
Epidemic. Yeah. How
Yeah.
about you, Alicia?
Yeah, I mean, I think along the same lines with Kathy, it like when I hear things like that, especially like post COVID, it reminds me of
Mm,
like depression, right? Like people
mm,
just are not connecting. They're losing that community. And even after, I mean, COVID went on for so long, I feel like people have replaced their community with other habits, other things to go to, because we couldn't connect the same way that we used
mhm,
to.
mhm,
Um, I feel like, in mentioning social media, I feel like our phones and social media are a huge hindrance to that. Y'all may have different opinions on that, but I just feel like we think we're getting so connected to people. We know so many people, but how many people do we really know, or people who
mhm,
really know us that like know what's going on? Where I could call and be like, listen, man, I'm not having a good day. Like,
mhm.
I need somebody to come over. I need somebody to talk to or go for a walk with me. Like, I'm not okay. Like, how many people can you actually do that with? I think those are the ones
Right.
that you need to count and pay attention to.
For sure. I feel like we could do a whole podcast on COVID and community, social
Yeah.
media and community. Like we could do separate those two. So this is another one
hmm
from that same study that said when asked about a change in their level of loneliness since before COVID, I'm glad you brought that up. 43% of American adults said that their levels of loneliness had not changed, which 67% said they did then.
Yeah.
25% said they were lonelier and 23% felt less lonely. So that's a pretty low number. So these are some of the, and you brought that up, some of the choices that people would do, and some of the things we do to help with that loneliness. And this was a study done. It said 50% find a distraction, binge watching Netflix, podcasts, social media, obviously, 50%,
Mentally checking
and
out.
41% go for a walk. Yes, absolutely. And I was so glad to see the walk. 41% people said they go for a walk. That's like number two of the most popular. 38% reach out to friends or family, and females were 1.5 times more likely to do that than men. 31% connect to a pet. 31% exercise. 26 eat more than usual. 13% use drugs or alcohol. And then it goes down the line. 9% connect to a therapist or counselor. It's like, man, only 9%. And then 6% volunteer. So we're going to focus on the 38% who reach out to friends or family. When you guys listen to that list, does anything stand out to you on that as something that was surprising or,
I
Kath, what
was
do you think?
actually surprised that
Okay.
41% go for a walk. I mean, I think
Yeah,
that's a
me too.
pretty high percentage of people saying, how, hey, like I'm experiencing these feelings. I'm going to go do something physical to try to bridge that gap between my emotions and my physical body. That's
Yeah,
kind of what stood out to
agreed.
me.
Hmm.
Yeah, I definitely see more people checking out with their phones or with their TV. I mean, I'm guilty of that. If I'm feeling lonely or bored, but lonely, I will probably go to my phone to connect with a person, but not call them where it would be a voice. I would text
Hmm.
somebody, or
Mm.
I would go on social media and look on someone's Instagram, or, you know, shoot a message. But unless I'm in the car, like if I'm in the car, I'll call some people I haven't talked to connect, but rarely at home would I like pick up my phone and just call someone to connect. I
Hmm.
definitely would use
Mm.
social media or texting to do that.
Yeah, for sure. Things are so different now. My niece and I, she's in Colorado, and we both have Marco Polo, and she's a single mom of three. We get to both get on Marco Polo. I can talk to her. But
Hmm.
the good thing about that is you can see the person. So it's a little bit different, a little bit better than texting. But there are ways, and I do think technology does offer us some good ways of connecting with people, and if we do it in the right way.
Yeah,
So
I love Marco Polo. I definitely have used that at different times, or even Voxer, which is just a voice app, at different times to connect with people that, we weren't on the same schedule, or, whatever reason. And I found that a great way to stay connected if you couldn't do face to face.
Mm.
yeah, for sure. How about you, Alicia? If
Okay,
any?
so I am the only one out of the loop. Well, what in the heck is Marco Polo? Just like it sounds, Marco. Let me find somebody else and Marco Polo.
Right, Polo.
I mean, Jeff and
Basically,
I play that. Jeff
you
and I
first
play
got
that
to
in the
dive
grocery
in
store
a pool.
sometimes so we can find each other. But
Yeah.
That's
We'll show
so
funny.
you.
what?
We'll
What
show
is
you.
it?
We'll do a Marco Polo tutorial.
It's
It's
an
an
app.
app, and then
Okay.
you
Okay.
hit play, they see you, you talk, and then they can listen to it whenever, respond whenever they want to. So
Yeah.
Oh,
I
basically.
that is so
one of my
cool.
favorite one of my favorite people that I Marco Polo is my friend Kari Vosick, her daughter. Evelyn, we Marco Polo each other, and it's the cutest
Oh,
thing. She'll
That's really
send me
cool.
messages and I'll send her messages. And so it is a great way to connect with people. So I don't know
good.
if you can
Okay,
see it.
so social media can be
Hold on. I'm
one.
gonna show you. There it
I
is.
want to
Oh,
show you some of my books.
So she's showing me her flowers that she bought, and we
cutie.
do that.
That's
So
so
anyway,
cute.
there are great ways to use it.
There are. I love that.
Yeah.
That's adorable.
I think for
Okay, so we're going to
technology.
go back. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
No, you're.
I was going to say, I think technology. It's like any tool, right? It can be used for good or it can be used for bad, right? And the same with, I mean, technology can be a huge help and support to connecting. But if it's used as the only way to connect, then maybe that's not so great because you miss that human interaction.
Yeah.
Right. And while we're on the topic of technology, also paying attention to when we're scrolling, like, how am I feeling right now? Am I connecting with someone, or am I really just feeling bad about myself, or that I'm not like this person? So it can definitely be a way to connect with people, but also, not be good
Yeah.
for our own self-esteem.
Yeah, I definitely
Yeah.
unfollow people. If I notice that, just if I'm on a social media platform, that when I come across their page, it causes me just to doubt myself or to,
Hmm.
just feel
Mm.
insecure. I'm like, you know what, there's no reason to have that person. Doesn't mean I don't love them, but for
Hmm.
whatever reason. The other thing, I think technology, again, enhancement versus replacement. It shouldn't replace our face to face, but it can
Yes.
enhance it. I mean, again,
Hmm.
FaceTiming my grandbabies is one of my
Hmm.
favorite things to do. And
Hmm.
because I don't live in the
Mm-hmm.
same city with them, it's a great way for me to connect with them,
Hmm.
when I can't be there. So it
Yeah,
does.
absolutely.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah. And I think the next generation is getting wind of that. I think they're understanding that now. Um, So I'm going to go back to this real quick from American Psychiatric Association. Americans ranked the top 3 areas where they felt the highest sense of community and belonging. Their family was number one, 65%. Friends were 53, and then neighborhoods were 20%. So
Hmm.
on the bottom rungs were online discussion forums, sports, rec teams, gyms. Those were kind of down in the 3 and the 4 and the 5%, which was kind of surprising to me. I know, Alicia, you were belonging to a gym, and you have
Hmm.
talked a lot about how that's just been part of your community.
Yeah, and I think that is one of the things that actually drew me to this gym when I started going there. I had never been to a gym where it didn't feel clicky, like where the girls already kind of had their thing going on, or where body image was so consuming for a lot of the women who were there. It's like you look at this perfectly modeled human woman and she's like, oh my gosh, I have an inch here and I got to put a swimsuit on. And like, oh my gosh, like, can you see yourself in the mirror? And that was one thing about this gym that, again, looking for people who I want to be like to hang around. Um, they were more, they were more tuned in with, hey, what kind of accomplishments have you made in the gym? Have you been able to get your
Mm-hmm.
double under with the jump rope? Let's celebrate that. Have you been able to maybe finish this workout where like a month ago you couldn't finish it? Let's celebrate that. It was really all about like physical accomplishments, but you're in a gym, right? So
Mm-hmm.
kind of cheering each other on from that perspective. And I think because of that, I've formed some really great friends, people that we hang out with, go to dinner with. Even the guys have kind of gotten together, which is always kind of a hit or miss type of thing, right? You're like, hey, this is my
Yeah,
friend.
for sure.
Now
Right.
her husband's your friend too.
Yeah.
She's your friend.
Yeah.
We just
Yeah,
did
I like
that
how
to
you,
the.
But yeah,
yeah, and it was great. I like how you talked about cheering each
it
other
was
on, and I feel like that's a key part of finding your community is finding people that will cheer you on. Also, love you enough to may say, "Hey, what's going on here?" But and that can be found in the gym. It can be found online. It can be found, at all these different places. But to make sure that we're surrounding ourselves with people who are for us. And I know I've had that. You guys are part of that. Kathy and I, and I were in a accountability group, and that like goes a step beyond even just a small group or just getting together once a week. Like accountability is risky. We're putting things out there. We're saying, "Hey, help me with this risky thing," and that's not easy. But I felt like for you and I, that really kind of tied our relationship, made it tighter
Mhm.
because we were being vulnerable like that. And I feel like that's also a key part of having a true tribe in a community is being vulnerable with each other, but it's also risky. It's like, ooh, I don't know if I want to say this because I don't know if they're going to hang around. So if they see the real me, and you guys are still here 25 years later. So um, I just feel like vulnerability is part of that community, and I've had that, I experienced that, so that when hard times come, because they will come and they do come, you have those people around you to help you stand up when you can't stand on your own. And so,
Listen,
go
and
ahead.
that's the thing I think that's important. It's interesting. I know for me, and I don't know about you, but when hard times came, it was amazing the people who fled, like people who I
Mm,
thought were in my community, and it depended on the situation. When I got divorced, that was a situation I thought some of my closest friends would be there, and instead they pretty much turned their backs on me,
mm,
and just I didn't even know what to do. And then when Joshua got sick and died again, some of the people I thought would surely be there for me, they were my community, they were not, they were nowhere to be found. And I had other
oh,
people who I didn't really
so
label
hard.
them in my circle show up. So I mean, God provided what I needed at both of those times. I had people around me, but it's not always who you think it is.
mm,
So you
mm.
might be surprised who your real
Hmm.
community is. So get to know who your real
That's
community
true.
is and who's going to stick with you through the tough times, because that's when you really, I mean, it's easy to be around people in the good times, but
Yeah,
you
Hmm.
need someone who's
for
going to tough
sure.
it out when things get ugly or disappointing or sad or hard. So
Yeah,
my 2 cents on that.
absolutely. Yeah, good stuff. Um, so thinking about the, go ahead, Alicia.
Well, I was going to say, talking about community, and I remember reading this little blurb, but it basically was from Hello Health, and the nugget for the day was community is built through weaknesses, not strengths. And it just
Mm.
speaks to that, right? When you're at your
Mhm.
weakest point, that's when you can get the most vulnerable. Like the more vulnerable you can get with someone, the stronger that bond is going to be. Now, the bigger the risk too, right? Because they might be like, whoa, I'm always afraid. I'm like, people are like, oh, sorry, you're a little bit much. Didn't want to go that deep with you, but again, that just kind of shows you who your real people are. Don't be afraid to show your weaknesses and share those with other people, because that's what's
Mhm.
really gonna tie that bond together for your community.
Or make them run
Yeah.
away.
Or make them run away. And
Right.
you know what? Either
Yeah.
way, good. Either way, good.
Absolutely.
Either get out of the way. I'm serious. Either get
I
out of the
agree.
way
Yes.
and make room for somebody else, or come lock arms with me. But
Yes.
don't, the older I get, y'all, and I'm sorry, I'm getting all fired up here, but the older
Yep.
I get, the less
Same.
time I have for like fiddle faddle people. Just
Yeah.
Fiddle
move
faddle.
on.
Woo!
Yeah.
We're telling our age now. Fiddle faddle.
Watch that language, girl.
We warned you.
Move it.
Yeah, I remember going on a retreat with a women's retreat, and this wasn't too long ago. And sitting there, we're all sharing, we're all talking, and I said some things and shared some things. Crickets, like nobody knew what to do, nobody knew what to say. Super uncomfortable moment. I'm like, ooh, shoot. So it's also about knowing your audience and knowing the people in front of you
True.
to know that these aren't the people to share some things
Right.
with.
Not everybody has
Yeah.
to know everything.
No. And as women, we just do that. Like, let me tell you all the things. I just met you, but let me tell you my life story.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's a bit much, especially with all of our stories. We are a bit much. Yeah. So we talked a little bit about social media. I mean, we could also just go on do a podcast in and of itself about that topic. Do you guys want to talk about so Kathy, why don't you go back to if you have any advice for young moms and they're busy at home, they have babies and they're struggling and they feel lonely, what would you recommend? How would you recommend for them to find community?
Yeah, it's so interesting that neighborhoods came up as a big deal, because I remember when I first adopted John Michael, moved into a neighborhood, didn't know anyone, and that actually became my tribe in those real early years when he was real tiny. It was the neighbor 2 doors down who also had her first baby, the neighbor the street over who had her first baby, and then we went on to have second babies, around the same time, or me adopting second babies. But so that was a natural place to meet people, just taking a walk outside. Literally, you see somebody in a stroller, you're like, let me go faster, and catch up with them and start talking. So I remember meeting a lot of people when I first had little, I know, chasing them down. Let me stalk you. I think now, it is interesting. Even I go back to online. I mean, it's when it's helpful, because there are play groups that people organize online at a certain park at a certain time. The park is another fabulous place in your area. I mean, Webbridge Park, girls, we used to go there all the time when our kids were little. And I met so many great people, as they move on into playing their first little t-ball or flag football. We met great people in those little young sports teams or art classes. And I think it's real hard when you're not a mom yet. That's the group that I think struggles to find community, are those young women who are out of college and are maybe young marrieds, but they don't have kids yet. That's the group that I hear is struggling the most to find connection, because they'll go to church, but everyone around them has kids. So they're connecting with the other parents. And so I think you just have to be willing to be the first person to put yourself out there too, because you might be thinking, wow, look, they have all these friends, and they might not. They just could that day happen to have several people talk to them, but it doesn't mean that they already have their full little circle. And they might just be waiting on you and they don't even know it. So you be the first person willing to go up to somebody else at the park, go up to some, run after them in your stroller. I just feel like those are great places when you're that age.
Absolutely. Yes. And I've actually had that conversation with my kids this past week, my adult kids. And some of them are in that space of, we had this conversation with my daughter-in-law and Tommy. They don't have kids yet. And then
Right.
Tanner and his girlfriend, and even Ty and his girlfriend, like, what do we do? Yes, church, but they're not sure about church.
Right.
So how do we, and it was interesting because even Carly said the same thing. So they're all kind of coming to this epiphany at the same time of, oh, like you said, Kath, like, oh, I can have a movie night at my house, or I can have a
Right.
game night at my house and invite people over instead of waiting for
Yeah.
this magic friends to show up at
Mhm.
your door. Like, oh, I can step out there and I can invite people over too. So there was kind of like this light bulb went off. They're like, oh yeah.
Have you heard of that? Someone started something called like stranger dinner. Is that what it's called? I don't know. But it's something where you invite people that you really don't know. Like you might see someone at the grocery store, or a couple, or you might talk to briefly, hey, I'm having dinner at my house Friday at 6 o'clock. Or, maybe this person that you've seen in your neighborhood, hey, we're having dinner at 6 o'clock, and you invite like four couples who don't know each other, and they just get together and have this dinner. And I think, man, that's pretty
That
bold,
would be
right? But
so
but
fun.
everyone's new, right? There's not somebody
Mm-hmm.
knows and you're the new person coming in, because that's what's hard, right? When you're the new
Mm-hmm.
couple coming in with three other couples who
Mm-hmm.
know each other. So that way no one knows each other and they all just sit around, and I'll have to look it up. But it was so interesting when I heard that. I'm like, what a great concept. Somebody really living out of the box in order to build community.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's what we've got to teach our kids. Be the leaders, be the ones setting up the game nights and the dinners and invite people over.
Mm-hmm.
People are
Mm-hmm.
begging I think people are lonely
Yeah,
and begging for community.
I agree. I agree. So, Alicia, you are in the empty nest stage. What advice would you give people who are like, moms who are like, man, I've been raising my kids for 20 years and now what do I do? How do I
Yeah,
find friends?
because a lot of that, as your kids get older, the kids don't always stay friends. I don't know if y'all experience that, but where you might
Yeah.
make friends with some kids that are the same age, and then the parents are friends, but then as the kids grow, the kids don't always have that same tight relationship. And then I think that even goes exponential when the kids move out of the house, right? Because then they're like, there's nothing there. And I mean, for us, well, we moved is what we did. We're like, okay, there really isn't any, the neighborhood we were in, and we liked it okay. I mean, there's always things that you can want more of or less of or whatever. But we moved, and we wanted to move into a swim tennis community. Not so much for the swim tennis, although I did want the pool for the swim. I told them I'm not moving anywhere else without a pool. So that was a must have. But it's just more social, right? People that
Mm,
you have a pool, a place where people can gather, even though nobody plays tennis, you'll see people out there on the tennis courts, hanging out and playing cricket, and occasional couple tennis players. But we moved to kind of get more into an area that it has a more social environment for us. The other thing that we noticed is that a lot of friends that we have now that are kind of like empty nester friends, we didn't necessarily know before. We kind of bumped into them at some other thing that we were doing. And they're like, oh, yeah, my kids are out of the house too. The great thing about empty nesters is we can be so flexible. We don't have to get a babysitter. We don't have to
mm,
check with, what the schedule is or whatever. We're like, oh, yeah, tomorrow night, Wednesday, of
mhm,
course, we're open Wednesday. No soccer, no football, no dance, no cheerleading, no like arts and crafts
mhm.
class, and we can just go. And that's been kind of nice too. But for me, I want to go to places and hang out with people who I want to be like. I kind of said that earlier, right? But if you're
Mhm,
not
mhm.
sure where to find your tribe, look at places who have people that you want to be like, and then go put yourself in those environments.
Yeah, absolutely. Surround yourself with people who inspire you.
Yes.
Yeah, for
Yes.
sure. One of the greatest acts of community that I have experienced is, and there's been a lot, is Kurt, my first husband, Kurt. He had some really good friends, and after he passed away, his one of his very good friends, Chris Arias and Andy Arias, moved their kids, and they were young, moved their kids into our neighborhood, two doors down, to be with us and to look over us and to protect us and help us and just be there. They're still there. They're still there today. And even though before that even happened, I just the camaraderie they had with each other and the respect they had with each other and the brotherhood. And then I just had never experienced that before. It was pretty amazing. I don't know if that's a Southern thing or a Christian thing or both. I don't know, but that's just been an amazing just to witness that kind of commitment to friendship, outside of being a true blood brother, sister. Just that friendship can even be closer, if not more close than blood. So do you guys have any examples of ways that people have showed up for you in your community? Kath?
I mean, I do go, of course, when Joshua died. I mean, I didn't have someone move in, but I did have people show up. Again, people I didn't expect. I think of a girl that was on my tennis team. I hardly knew her, but I mean, she would show up with just bread and meals and out of the blue check on me all the time, just sending me messages. And it was just so encouraging because I'm like, you don't really even know me. And yet you're willing to show up for me physically, tangibly, but also emotionally by just, checking in. How are you doing? And those kind of things. So I was so impressed with that. I mean, I have been blessed to have people just show up throughout the times. I haven't anybody move next door. That's remarkable that Chris did that. And I don't think that's a Southern thing or a Christian thing. I think that is just because of his friendship with Kurt. And it was so deep and meant so much to him that he was going to take it that seriously to help be there for his family, for Kurt's family. And that's beautiful.
Yeah, for sure. Alicia, has anything come to mind for you?
Honestly, no. When we talked about this a little bit at the lake, I never felt like I really had a really good, solid tribe because I always kind of felt like I was on the periphery. We had these wild, crazy kids. In fact, I was thinking about the Webbridge Park and the sandbox that was there. And I remember going to the sandbox and I almost hated going to the park with the sandbox because something would always happen with Spencer. I remember this one time and, they would have these toys that would be in the sandbox and they didn't belong to anybody. They were just the sandbox toys that were left there for kids to play with or whatever. And Spencer had this truck. And for those of y'all that don't know, Spencer is our youngest son. He's now 26, but he was hell on wheels, that one. And, he was playing with the truck and some, kid around his size age came over and kind of took that truck and grabbed it from him. And Spencer got up and he went and put some sand in his hand and threw it in his face and clobbered him. Okay, I guess we're going to leave the park now. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
Is he okay? I'm like, oh my gosh, Spencer, And, Spencer was just like, well, he took the truck, Mom, Now, he's like 3 or 4. So, if he was doing that when he was 10, then we have a different conversation. But, I always just kind of felt like because I perceived that my kids were so hard, I was always kind of on the periphery. And even when we, struggled with our oldest son and all his prodigal childness, kind of like what Kathy said was my experience. It was just we all got leprosy and people that we thought were friends just kind of dropped and suddenly they were washing their hair on a Friday night and, just didn't want to be around us, which I understand, but it's just really hard to be the person on the other end of that,
I would jump in to
So I got
say,
nothing
as
for
I
that.
know, sorry, Alicia.
No, you're
Well,
good.
I would want to encourage you and encourage everyone else is that your tribe does not need to be big. That is, the older I get, the more that is confirmed. You don't need 10 great people in your tribe. Your circle can really be small. And, if you have 1, 2, 3 people that you could call at 3 a.m., then you are doing great. And that's always, to me, that's the sign. Can I call this person at 3 a.m. with a need? And they would answer the call, number 1, and be there. So that would be my encouragement if you're out there thinking, I need a tribe.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we're not saying this huge, big amount of people. It's like you said, it can be just these small people who you can call if you need bailed out of jail. Who can I call if I need to be bailed out of jail?
Absolutely call the Warnickies. We always have get out of jail bail money on hand.
You're on my list. You are
There
on
you
my
go.
list.
I'm writing that. I'm putting that in my notes right now.
Right. Everybody write down Alicia's phone number.
That's right. Here it is.
Call. Yeah, no judgment there. No
That's right.
judgment
We'll do
there. Yeah. Okay. Any other thoughts, you guys?
that.
Yeah. So on some of these podcasts, we're going to end with just send-offs and small deposits. Small deposits. Okay, thanks for joining us today, you guys. I hope there was something here that, was encouraging for you or just inspiring a little bit. And we're going to send you off with something that we're going to call small deposits. And as far as this topic goes, we're going to reach out to someone this week. Is there somebody that you've been wanting to have a relationship with, or somebody that inspires you that you, want to just take out to coffee or go for a walk, or even just actually make a phone call rather than texting? So we're going to each commit to do that today, and we encourage you to do the same. Thanks for listening. Thanks for being here with us, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks, you guys.
Bye.